Hello, everyone. How are you doing? How are you doing, people? Ooh, the chat's pretty busy. That's pretty good. So I see a lot of names here that have been around for quite a while. So we got Judici Music, we got Lelo88, you weren't here. Judici Music, Davide, yes, you were here. Luca Magnino Music. There's a lot of people that I know, and I think you got, maybe you went on WhatsApp or Telegram and you were like, let's hang out here. So first off, as usual, we're gonna start with just a sound check. So hit me up in chat if everything's fine, despite your whatever connection problems or anything. I hope that you're doing good and you are safe wherever you are. I know the times aren't the best at the moment, so I hope that wherever you are, you're doing good. You're keeping yourself locked out. You're staying home, and you're making the best out of the time that we're here doing. So it's pretty sunny in Berlin. It's pretty good. Pretty, I would say. Look, still sunny. So getting hotter and warmer. So chat works. I'm covering all the bases. Stream works. I know that a lot of people in Italy are having issues with connection problems because everybody is on Netflix or everybody is, I don't know, watching movies or chatting with each other, sending each other memes or that stuff. So don't worry if you can't really, hear or sometimes your connection drops or anything like that. Because what happens is this stream is getting recorded as well. So later on, you'll be able to come in here and read it, watch it. I think even the chat messages you can easily reread, just in case you wanted to read somebody, writing stuff. So everything should be fine. Let me just double check that we are doing good. I see the levels going up, so things are good. I see myself. That's good. Got quite a tan, I gotta say, because I've been dedicating myself to like 15 to 30 minutes of sun every day because, when sun's out in Berlin, you want to get it, for just, even if it's 10 minutes, you want to get it. Your vitamin D, whatever, So, again, hope you're fine. A lot of people here don't know who I am. Others, they do know, but I see there's quite a lot of new names. So I thought I would just introduce myself. The sound of these voices you're hearing, this fantastic, sexy voice that is keeping you just distant virtual musical company, no other types of company, is the one of Alberto. My name is Alberto Rizzo Schettino, and I am an Italian guy who, from Florence, Toscana, who moved to Berlin after having moved quite a lot of other places. But I ended up in Berlin 5 years ago, and I opened Fuseroom recording studio in Berlin after it had been open, I think around 5 or 6 years. No, way more. Hold on. I opened in 2007 in Italy, in Florence, and I moved it in 15. So that's quite, it's 8 years around. That's fantastic. So after 8 years, I moved to Berlin with my wife Valeria, which is somewhere in the house here, because obviously we're staying home. And we moved the studio here, and among the things that I do, obviously being a recording studio, I do recording, I do mixing, and I do also mastering. The more I say I don't do mastering, the more I get hired for mastering. So I keep saying I don't do mastering, so I get gigs. So, but the things that I had been doing way before doing sound engineering were piano and keyboards. I would sometimes say keyboards and piano, but I remember as a kid, I don't want to make the story of my life, but I didn't ask my parents, can I study synthesizers? Because they would have probably said, you mean piano, right? They're not the people who go like, oh, yes, synthesizers, of course. Daddy's got one Moog synthesizer just here for you. There was like, what? I was like, I meant piano. But I actually was very interested in piano and kept on going until, today. I'm studying more jazz piano now that I'm locked in my house and than I was before. So I'm studying myself. And the thing that I played the most at home, just on piano and stuff, it's probably jazz because it's, I like it. And it's the thing that I definitely keep studying and been studying for like quite a while. But it's, it's a never ending thing. I've never done quite a lot of classical, just, when I was younger, yes. But classical isn't for me. And so then after a while, I got into keyboards, obviously, and synthesizers. And during the end of the 90s, I think, I started getting the first gigs for people that couldn't afford stuff that had, for example, a quartet, like a string quartet. And the studio owner was like, dude, like talking to the band, right? Guys, you're never going to be able to afford a quartet. But I know this one guy who can write something with digital stuff that would sound pretty convincing and it's cheaper and stuff. And so at 17 or 18, I was making quite a lot of money for, a guy that age from recording studios. I had a couple of them that were really passionate about who I was and how I was working. They really liked how I composed and stuff. And they would hook me up with a lot of bands. So I got into working with a lot of people, which was the thing that I loved the most. I composed stuff for myself, but I've never been quite an artist in the sense that I wake up. I know a lot of you people are like this. You wake up and you have a song to write, like you have a story to tell. I write music and I really like it, but I always have to have a sort of a purpose. I don't mean like a financial purpose. I mean something like somebody hires me for doing something. I always wanted to be the professional guy who was hired by somebody. That's like when I was a kid, I was like, I want to be a touring musician. I want to be a studio recording musician and stuff. So that's how, I got into it. So I really work well when somebody has a project, hires me for that. And it can be a record, can be a soundtrack, can be something with keyboards for, I don't know, I've even done stuff for art exhibitions, for example, like weird ambient music and things. So it goes without saying that a lot of the tools that I have are digital and are not analog. I do have analog synthesizers at the studio, one at home here, but it's a digital one. But let's face it, I mean, digital software synthesizers are way more convenient. I think everybody here uses probably 100 million more than I do. One of these is actually more than one, but the one we're going to take today is by far not the one synth that I can tell you about, oh, I've been using this my entire life. Guilty as charged, but very representative of how this business works. This is a synthesizer that I had been hearing about for, I think, I wouldn't even say years, but I would say like some people would come in the studio, bring me a mix or a master, and I would hear the song and I was like, wow, this lead synth is really cool. What synth it is? And they were like, it's Zebra. And then we're like, whoa, this bass is really good. What synth it is? And the other guy, maybe from a completely different country, he was like, yeah, it's Zebra. So after hearing it for quite a while and hearing it from people like directly in the studio, I was like, all right, I gotta check this thing out. And as a composer, or if you're a DJ, if you're into techno, if you're into EDM, electronic music, you're gonna use synthesizers. I've done classical music. There's a record coming out today which has few synths. Actually, it's mostly piano and acoustics, but I've done classical records or modern classical stuff with a lot of synthesizers in it. So they're everywhere. There's no going back. Synths are out there. So this piece of software called, again, Zebra2, let me hook it up to our channel here, looks something like this. So how does it work? Hello there. Hello. Keep your chat under control. So if you have any question or anything, just hit me up. Let me know. I'll be able to help you out. Obviously, I'm doing this in English because not everybody speaks your language, my native language, my whatever, but English is the common denominator for all of us. So if there's something you don't understand, because you just, lose it, I'll try and go as, not as low as I can, but kind of in between. Hit me up on email. On my email, you can email me at alberto@fuseroom.com. You can write, my email through the studio, personal website. Hit me up here on Twitch. There's plenty ways for you to contact me. So I'll be able to help you out if there's something you didn't understand. So these people are, fun enough, U-he, actually, because it's a German name, but it could be U-he, is a brand from Berlin. So they're like 15 minutes, 20 minutes out here going north. There's their offices, and it's where they developed these and more amazing synthesizers. So today, I would really love to cover sort of make a series out of this. It is not too long, not too complicated, not too short either, and not too just cheap, and something that everybody could do, but a series of episodes where I talk about synthesizers and tools that are actually new or old or something I used to use and I got back using, something like this. I'm not gonna be the manual guy. Whoever studied with me knows that I don't do manual reading stuff like this function does this function does this. For next week, I'm gonna ask you this and this and this. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't do this. But we're gonna go through this synthesizer as I went through it last week, because I really got it, I think a week or so ago, and I had some time to try it out, and I was like, I'm so happy I got it. This is amazing. And I want to get more, and we'll talk about other synthesizers that I might get. It started, I told myself this is for a project I'm doing. I actually got it because it sounded good. So, but that's good. I have an excuse in my mind, so that's fine. So, again, I do this. I do a lot of teaching. I do a lot of master classes. You can go on YouTube and you'll find a lot of free master classes. And I have students and I do stuff. And I do, regular teaching as any other. I would say professional in the sense that somebody who does a professional into music does. But this series and the other series that I will be doing on scoring for gaming and whatever tools and stuff starts from the fact that we're sadly all locked out. We're in our homes, we can't move, and it's time that we might waste in the end, and we must not waste any, second. So one good thing that I wanted to do is break off the habit of just, telling people, look, if you want to do this, we do this, and just come out of there, get out of there and say like, let's meet online, as we're doing now, because there's a lot of people today. So I'm very happy. So I called these like an exploration series. So we kind of venture on our spaceship to explore new worlds, sort of a Star Trek kind of thing. And instead of worlds, we're going to explore synthesizers. It's also very science fiction, which is kind of the genre that I would compose the best on, rather than fantasy or medieval. I already talked about this. Everybody's got his own, cup of tea, right? So let's get into this. Zebra2. When I opened it, it just came out like this. And that's pretty honest, like you see immediately what's going on, but you also see there's a lot of stuff going on. So I want to first make sure that everybody can hear me. And so I'll ask, we don't need to play right now, but I just want to make sure that you can hear me. So let me know if you can hear this music. Boom. Somebody write in chat. You can hear that. I already know you could because there's meters that tell me that you can. Nice. Thank you, Gabriele. We're fine. All right. I wouldn't want to do a music masterclass without people being able to hear music. That would be kind of too experimental for me. I don't want to do that. So, Zebra. Zebra comes out of this in just a simple, I would say, 4 areas interface. So it has a left area, center area, right area, and the bottom. So the first and foremost that I would be really weird. Yeah. But, never say never. Maybe in some years, people are going to just, do visual audio master classes. I don't know. So cerebral, neuro augmented musical interfaces. So first 3 main pages that I noticed are synthesis, which is the page we are in, performance, and presets. So presets, I won't even talk about that because everybody in here knows what presets are. So presets is where you find presets, which are really awesome. There's some amazing sound design in here, I guarantee you that. But the most important page in this synthesizer, as simple as it is the synthesis page, obviously. So they did it pretty nicely, I gotta say. They have the sources on the left, they have the envelopes or things that control sound over time on the right, and in the center you have a sort of a module matrix. So signal flows like water, top to bottom, and it goes through these lines that you see. So there's sort of 4 lanes here. And there's, with the right click, there's modules that you can put in. So some people ask, like, is it a modular synthesizer? Well, it is a modular synthesizer in the sense that it's made of modules. Yes. So what you see here is that you have the more modules you instantiate, the more they obviously get displayed here. So I can double click them and mute them. So like, disassemble them, take them out. But if I can obviously remove them, but with a simple double click, it gets back to, active or inactive. Signal flows down. So obviously flowing down, I can add more modules in here. So I can add a filter, for example. I can add a comp filter, and signal will keep flowing down this way. So the first and most important thing to break this synth down is that you have 4 lanes, and they're called 1, 2, 3, and 4. Very smart. They're German people, so not all of them, but they kind of did it nicely. You call it A, B, C, D, that also worked. But they called them 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the sound flows from top to bottom, goes into this mixer, and here you can choose to mute these sources, or you can choose to send them to either main or bus 1 or bus 2. So if you do main, you're gonna come out in the global page into this secondary matrix, which is the effects and global output matrix. So here you have oscillator 1 coming out of here, and it would be sort of coming out of bus, main here, because you see there's a main knob down here. So right now, oscillator 1 is going down. We'll see this pan and modulation afterwards, but it goes into main, so it comes out of the left of the 3 leftmost column, and it's then set as a main volume here. So every module that is on lane 1 here, it's going to be our main bus. Every module that is in here, in the centermost page, column, is the one dedicated for bus 1. So to have something come out of here, we have to send something to bus 1. And at that moment, we have to raise bus 1 right here. Bus 2, same exact thing, but it's the rightmost lane, and we have to send stuff to bus 2 to be able to have it. Now remember, there's also output knobs. So these things determine how much signal you're sending out of bus 1 or bus 2. So if you're sending here at 0, you're done. You're not having signal pass by anywhere. You have signal in your delay, but you don't have it in the bus. Then there's a master output. I'll cover the things that are coming, to me as more natural to explain. And then there's 2 tricky send 1 and send 2, which I want to cover right away. I don't even know if I'll use them, but that's good to know. So if you have something going to main, so let's say this sound is here and we put a reverb. If I put a delay here and I want to send something that is going from main to send 2, it's going to be very easy. I just go send 2, and so now signal is also flowing through the rightmost lane. If I add send 1, I'm going to send stuff to send 1 as well. So I don't need to route things. And this is very clever because you don't need to mess up your routing here in the sound generation. You can have things be used as a send return thing. So if I do this now, okay, if I have this sort of sound and then I add it up, it's gonna come out here. I don't know. Let me see if I play that, for example. Let me put my headphones on. That's a very good idea. All right. So let's go from the very start. Initiate. The sound of a very naked sawtooth kind of thing. So interesting. So here, right, we're coming out of main. Then we want to add a reverb, for example. I find it here. So we obviously do not have the reverb. Why don't we have reverb? Because this is bus 1. So we can either send this guy to bus 1 and then raise this, but we're losing the direct signal, right? Because we no longer come out of the leftmost pane here on bus 1. So if we want to come out of the dry signal in main and we want to have something like a full send effect, you can just go send 1, and now we're sending the main to the main, and then a copy of the main in a send return fashion into the reverb, which is then determined by this. So either, I took the dry out, for example, and I took the wet to maximum. Whether you do this or you do this is the same. So essentially, as it happens with many synthesizers that you've seen, is that things can be done sometimes in a multitude of ways. And for some people, it's initially confusing because they say, like, why do I have a knob there, and then I have a knob there, and then I have a knob there, and they essentially do the same thing. It's because sometimes when you start building patches, I guarantee you would wish, or you will wish, that you had a knob where it actually isn't there. So a lot of people, including myself, write the developers, please add the knob there so that we can do this and that. And the developers are very good, nice people. They listen to us and they go, they leave their, lunch or dinner and they go coding and they make us, the request and of sorts. So again, this is a very open system, Zebra, so you can do this. For example, the reverb volume, you could lower here, or you could also lower the wet, but, it's essentially exactly the same thing. So what else is there? The send effect we already talked about. Let's try and do it more complicated. So we're going to have a reverb and we're going to have a delay. You already know that if I want the delay here, I just raise send to. Hopefully. Let's see if it works. Where's my delay? There we go. Mix at 0 usually is not a good idea for using something on a send. I would rather go, 100%. So here's our delay. And our delay is there because we're sending a copy to send to. But if I want reverb, I can send this thing also to send 1. So now I have reverb because send 1 is getting generated, and then I have delay because send 2 is getting generated. So this kind of covers the signal path very roughly from the first origin of it to the effect chamber, I would call it, out to the main output and things. So I think, when I saw this synthesizer, I was like, all right, that's the very basic rundown that everybody should have. I'm gonna tell this first because it's sort of like the most important. Now, within this system, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Obviously, look at how many modules are here. So every time you instantiate a module that is a sound generator, you're gonna have it pop up on your left side. And you see, we have a maximum of 4 sort of normal oscillators. We have 4 frequency modulated oscillators. I'm not going to play this patch because probably it's going to sound horrible. We have ring modulators. We have comp filters. We have shapers. We have noise generators, 2 of them, 2 distortions, 2 fold, which I have no idea what it is. It's a fold ripple filter or whatever. Yeah. Let me see. Oh, never used. Okay. Yes. So we got 2 of these folds. We got an XMF, which is, I think it's a cross filter. How would they call it? XMF with like cross modulation filter. We got 2 of them. We got an SB. What is SB? I think SB is sort of like, it's a band. Well, look at that. Should be, we'll take a look at that. What is SB? That's a good thing. Let's wait, SB1. Let's search for it. SB1. Go. Internet Explorer. Please search. Search for me. SB1. What's the proper name of these? Oh, that's awesome. No found. We'll find out. I think it's sort of a... How come we don't have SB1 in here? No results. All right, SB. Here we go. Found it. So the sideband, of course, that's how it's called. It's a stereo frequency shifter. All right. So we even got 2 of those. And what else? Then we got 4 normal filters. And you can see I can climb. I can make this as complicated as I want. a lot of these filters and a lot of these modules, generators and stuff are essentially the same that you find in any other synthesizer. But as usual, every product has its own quirks and differences. So what matters in modules, that was the thing that I had to kind of understand at first, is that you can put an oscillator here. And what happens is you are not putting oscillator 1 into oscillator 2. We are actually mixing two oscillators into the main output. So if I have a single oscillator here, and I put oscillator 2 here, and I choose, I don't know, a different sort of wave. Let me see, maybe I can choose even different, quadso, something different waveform. I have the sum of these two oscillators being mixed in here. If I put a filter in here, the filter is receiving the product of these two oscillators and is filtering the both of them. So if I move oscillator 2 here, now oscillator 1 is gonna go to VCF1 and gonna go down here, and oscillator 2 is free to go. So I'm getting into the main matrix here, main and main, coming out of here, first leftmost column. Here, and I'm only filtering, oscillator 1. I would need oscillator 2 to go maybe to filter 2 to determine a different. All right, a different filtering. And obviously this can go on for oscillator 3 and can go on for oscillator 4. They were kind of clever in putting in mixers as well. So when you can get really crazy on this stuff. So if you put a mixer here and then you right click this guy, you can choose which kind of inputs this guy is gonna have. So if we put this guy on input 2, you see that anything, I think even oscillator 3 or 4, not at this moment. So it follows things to, let me see, 4, 3, 2, yes. See how complicated this can get. For some reason, VCF2 doesn't go here, but we can, see, change stuff. So we're going to VCF1, go to VCF3, look at the routing here that we can do. We can get so complicated and we can mix things around. And I think if I do, let me do something super complicated here. It should be input 4. If we put a mix 2 here, we're gonna be able to mix right on. So now this guy, man, this is complicated. We're even 3 in 1, fantastic. So we're mixing, look at this. So we're sending oscillator 1 to VCF1 and it's coming out of here. It's also going to mix 1, which is also going to mix 2, but it's also going by itself, skipping mix 1 into mixer 2. Oscillator 2 is instead going straight, and oscillator 3 goes into mix 1 and then gets duplicated into mix 2 and also goes into 3. So just to demonstrate that if you start thinking about it that way, which I never do, once I know, okay, it's great, I can do that. I don't start making patches because it would be awesome if I do some sort of theoretical sound shaping. I really don't care. But I think it's fantastic that you have such a freedom of movement in something like this, because sometimes you just wish that you had some sort of intermodulation or stuff that comes around. It's really great. So I think this sort of modular approach comes off modular synthesizers, of course, but it keeps it in a way that you don't have cables in the interface, you don't have many things going around, and that's cool. So the oscillator page here allows you to pick a lot of factory oscillators, and you can pick Bell's Flipper. Okay, I mean, you have the init. And you always have this choice to be tested within the parameters that you have. So if you do wave, you're gonna do wave warping. So you're gonna do sort of what a Voyager has, which is like stepped, and you can change things around. You can obviously tune or detune slightly the oscillator. You can add a vibrato to it. You can shift phase, or basically do pulse width modulation if it's a square wave or something like that, and you can sync it. can sync this thing not to itself, but probably you can sync this guy to something else. Can I do it if I do dual? Turn it on. Yes. Okay. So can I do it with single? Okay. Yes, you can sync the waveform through itself thing. That's pretty good. Cool. Because when you have sync, I noticed that a lot of synths have different ways of doing sync. So sometimes it can get kind of complicated. I remember asking the first questions on sync on Nord lead stuff. And I was like, what does it do this? And it wasn't really well explained in the manual at the time. And you got to try stuff, basically. So you can set, the phase to reset at every key hit. And most importantly, you can have a single wave, you can have a dual, you can have a quad, and you can have 11. So that's a single one. That's a dual one. That's 4 of them, and you have 11 of them. So that's mostly how it works. You choose the waveform that you want. For example, so to pulse, it's sort of what the Voyager kind of has. Which brings us to the reason why these oscillators are really cool in a way. So it's not a 100% wavetable as you've seen it in other synthesizers, but it is a vector-based thing that some people still call, it's a wavetable essentially. Yes, because it's a table of waves, but I don't think there's actual sampling into like something that other synthesizers have. I don't think there's snapshots of actual samples of waveforms. It's more of it should be a vector-based engine, which we can see in oscillator 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we only have oscillator 1 here. And you see that we have 16 snapshots of these oscillator. So when I move the wave thing, I'm shifting through various stages, various snapshots of these waveform. So what happens here is that I'm morphing, essentially, that's the right term, and I can really determine how I want shapes to change, if I want to make changes to it. So if I go into editor, the thing switches. This is kind of a fairly recent addition, I think, because I haven't seen it in other older interfaces, Zebra and stuff. Basically, you have the control of the oscillator, but you also have the higher page where you can really fine tune how these things look, and you can always undo stuff, which is kind of good. Even the pages you trigger are gonna be undo stages, so it's really precise. If you mess something up, which I know I do, you can go like, oh crap, I want to go back, undo. Even the window pages, are still being recorded, every keystroke or anything. That's pretty good because things are very complicated. So that's a pretty good thing. So in this case, for example, I think the one thing that was like catching my attention when I got to learning these, because we're talking late night, this was probably 2 a.m. or something, and I was like, I want to learn this thing, and I will learn it by just trying random stuff. So I kind of failed 30% into it and got back to manual, which you see, that's why I have the manual here, which I would recommend you kind of do every time you want to learn a synthesizer, because there's gonna be the one thing that you have to look, and I guarantee you, if you look at it, you're gonna learn it. If you don't, it's just gonna be guesswork, and sometimes it's really hard. So I don't know if you noticed, and you've been looking at this for quite a while, and it's like, what is, let me put this bigger because now things are gonna be a little bit bigger. So do we have audio here? Let me double check. This guy. Yes, fantastic. Okay, no, I still want the chat. Thank you. All right. So what happens here? Here we have this pane that kind of got my attention, I was saying, where there's geomorph, spectromorph, geoblend, and spectra blend. And I was like, these names I've never seen, maybe, but I don't know what they are. So geomorph is essentially this. When you morph your waveform through it, you're going step by step to the geographical positions of these 16 stages. If I go to spectromorph, this is where it gets complicated, but I guarantee you it's really easy. So if I move in geomorph, in geoblend or geomorph, let's stay in geomorph, this shape you see is the actual waveform representation. So you look at this and you would say, oh, sawtooth. Fantastic. You go here, oh, pulse wave. You go here, sort of, oh, square wave. Okay. If you go to spectromorph, this thing is no longer the representation of the waveform. This is more an equalizer area. So you have high frequencies on the right and low frequencies on the left. So I can essentially make, all right, something like right? This is essentially an equalizer. So everybody, hello, Lux Lumen, hello. Everybody who's worked with equalizers knows that. But because it's not as immediate when you switch to it, that's when the manual comes in handy. So this is our actual waveform if we are in geomorph. Trying to use my mouse and playing, it's kind of a you would imagine it's easy. It's super complicated. So this is actually a waveform where we're doing weird numbers of waveform and stuff, and we're changing the wave. This is actually the wave. If we are in spectromorph, this is actually an equalizer. So now, why can't I change this thing? I want to change you. All right, so here, obviously the first 2 points you can't change, right? Yeah, you can, but they can only stay obviously at the very first, leftmost or rightmost. So this is now full spectrum. Why can't I change this guy? Insert point. No, I don't want. So if I go all smooth, if I go all linear and I go distribute all, if I go clear, we have a very sharp high frequency range until we get here, like sort of a high frequency range. There's no hertz mentioned, so I would assume this is sort of like, no idea what it is, maybe 5K, 3K, I don't know, maybe even less. So it goes from, I think, 20 to 20K, something like that. If we go to, let me go back to our init mode. If we go to GeoBlend, let me change this to Sawtooth Pulse. Fantastic. So we're here. If we go to GeoBlend, we're now drawing the waveform in just simple mouse dragging. So now this is the waveform that I am. So if I wanted to do like a sawtooth, I would do something like this, right? This, I don't know, probably. If I want to do a square wave, I do this. Let me draw it here because it's easy, right? Something like this. Kinda sounds like. If I want to do a triangle wave, I assume I'm gonna do this. I actually probably, I don't know, probably gonna do this, just positive phase, I don't know. Sort of. Obviously, it's not, I'm not Picasso or, Van Gogh, so can't really draw that stuff. So GeoBlend is the free drawing of the waveform. You already see how complicated this can get. And if we go to Spectra Blend, it's exactly the same thing as drawing by hand, but these are now frequencies. So we go low, for example. Hold on, it's not the ground, not the drones I'm looking for. So for example, how can I do it if I do it like this? Right. So this is phase related, obviously. I'm shifting here if I do this. Different frequency content if I do this. I don't have a different sign. If I do this, probably pulse-ish in a way. This could be even different. I don't know. So we're redesigning stuff. Now, most of the time, which doesn't really mean anything, I don't know, saying most of the time, because it's a very complicated synth, I think I can my mind kind of goes to vector-based shapes. So geomorph, for me, is kind of where it's at. But What's cool about it is that you can still have it soft or crisp. If you like kind of more aliasing sounds, or you're making like 8-bit vintage old school synth kind of stuff, you're probably gonna like getting into the crisp because it's more crisp. But ta-da. Then you can normalize the waveform, which is kind of good. It's basically a normalized function at the oscillator level. Resolution is kind of, I don't think we can hear it here, but resolution mostly matters when you are, I think, moving the waveform. Should investigate that. It's the resolution of the stepping of the changes of the synthesizer, of the waveform. And the keys, it's a key scale pitch. Okay, this is, could be fun for some sound design. So when this thing is not in his initial position, which I think should be 100, you're gonna have, now I have a full step, C to D. If I go 200, I have a completely different key range scale. Not only I'm lower in pitch, but like every step, which would be the voltage in your analog synth, is now generating the same voltage step is generating more note transition, or the same key change is generating different voltages, which I think in analog would generate higher pitches and stuff. Not an engineer, but that's how it is. So this can be useful for atmospheres, drones, or stuff where you have noise and you have more atonal kind of stuff. So you can also do that. To finish the oscillator section, because these are 4 of them, but they're like identical, you can decide, if I remember, how these areas of the keyboard, so this is mostly the key scale gain is your keyboard from C-1 to C6. You can decide the volume of the oscillator based on your keyboard. So, for example, the higher you go, now here I have 25 keys, so it's gonna be horrible, but... you can hear it, fantastic. So here... Here, to try and find the point. Okay, here. So the volume is going down the higher I go because I set this curve that changes. Now, I think this is really clever because it allows you to easily do splits, or sometimes you have an oscillator which you would like not to be that high level volume and it's not a key tracking thing, right? And this is really, really easy. You can have layers done, hardcore, like when I go over this key, don't play this oscillator. And when I go here, lower the volume and stuff, or have, some sort of spike towards the center of the keyboard, or the opposite, have a complete mute volume here. It's cool because it's at the oscillator level. So it's really the beginning of everything you're doing. I thought this was very clever. I know of other synths that do have, and they're all synths that I really like a lot. So they kind of, I don't know, this was kind of, looks easier to me than others. The same thing you can do with velocity. So you can tell that this oscillator does not play below a specific, velocity, I think. I wish I knew. So how does it work? Yeah. So you're rescaling actually the velocity of the oscillator. So you can make it, again, like logarithmic, exponential, logarithmic. You can make it, non-linear, zigzag, inverted zigzag. I don't know, people have many different names. And you can't really add points here, but you still have 4. I think you'll be fine. You don't need 300 millions. While here in the oscillator page, you can insert points. So that's why I really like Geomorph, because you can really, really get creative. I don't know how many points you can create, but it's quite a, seems to be quite a lot. And again, I think with Control, no, with Alt, no, with whatever, insert point or smooth. I don't remember how you smooth this. How do you smooth it? How do you smooth this thing? Well, it's smoother. But I remember that there's a way to do this. Hold on, where is it? Where is it? I want to smooth you. Smooth yourself. So you can still, obviously, if you go all smooth, you'll see that you can draw, for example, pluck kind of stuff. We can remove this point. I would need quite, few of them, just like this. And we can, let's see, for example, remove, maybe clear this guy, go up here, here, and then we'll go down with the pluck and do it like that. So this is now, so see, the harmonic content is changing because of, we're no longer having harsh cuts. So we can have linear selected insert points, I think, right on. There's these three things which are really cool: peaks selected, linear selected, and smooth selected. So when you do this, you're affecting essentially how you see the curves of your oscillator behave, which is, again, to me, some people really like, the people that are more used to FM, they really like to work in something like this and determine frequencies of how they want to do it and just, use their brushes to do sound design. I'm kind of more of a geomorph kind of guy. So, but it's good that you have the choice. That's fantastic. So I think that's pretty much all for the oscillator. Editor, you can really do a lot of stuff. Every oscillator has a second and third page here where you have effects that you can add, and there's a ton of them. I don't even want to go through all of them, but there's fractal type of effects, algorithms, there's phase distortion, DX. Look it up. It's fantastic. These are specific effects that you're adding to the oscillator. Some sound like syncing, some sound like ring modulation and stuff, but they're all completely different. So I think you can add two of them. I mean, you can even add a filter to the effects. So it's essentially an effect. It's essentially a filter without having the filter module. It's a very, simple one, but there you have it. And then you have a final mixer page when you can set pan, you can set volume, and you can set width, which obviously in a single one, I had to make sure though. You see, I tried it with the double dual. You go from full mono, all counterclockwise, to full sort of stereo. Okay, and so even with 11, it becomes wider and you already have it. Then you have sync. We said you have PWM, so pulse width modulation, which I think you do with wave. Not sure if, let's try this. Let's go to phase. Yeah, no, there's a specific control, right? Right? How many of you have heard this sound? I mean, there's a Juno-ish kind of stuff. You can do pretty much everything you want with this oscillator. It just behaves as the most complicated, like the most, I would say, versatile oscillators that you have. You can only imagine what happens if we go to the filters, because even a simple VCF like this, which we put into oscillator 1, let's go really simple on single, no phase, just a simple sawtooth. We have quite a variety of filters. Now, I know all of you who are here, I think most of you are already used to the amazing range of choices that the modern digital synthesizers in virtual world have. So if you have a virtual instrument and it's got a synthesizer, sometimes it looks bad if it only has 3 filters. And I don't know why. I mean, people obviously want you to have choices. So look here, we have 3, 6, 8 low pass. We have 2 band pass, 2 high pass, 1 band reject. We have 2 equalizer-ish things. We have 2 AP. Gotta look it up. AP is kind of a cool one. And then we have a SR, which I think it's sort of a sample reduction. And then we have 3 more low pass, which should be MS-20 revision-wise. And let's check out AP, because that's pretty cool. So I remember we were kind of here. That's the effect, fold, ring, sideband, XMF, it's different, FMMO. AP is AP. Where is AP? Let's go back to this phase. Should be around here, right? Man, I hate when I don't. I know manuals. You're bad. You're horrible sometimes. So let's go to the filter, if I write filter section, because it's a PDF in non-indexing stuff. So filter, scrambler, so these are the effects. Filter types, boom. AP is a phasing model, which uses a 4 or 8 stage all-pass filters to generate typical phasing effects. All right, so these are all-pass. So how many are these? Maybe 20? Yeah, at least 20, something like that. So obviously you have the typical one. So if you go LP vintage, then you have cutoff, and you have resolution. Resonance. No resonance. Resonance. And you have your typical key follow, which is, for those who don't know, the fact that the filter with open or close depending on how high or low you are on your keyboard. And then you have drive. Okay, which is just driving the input signal into the filter. So it's a sort of an overdrive. I don't know specifically how it works, but it's a drive effect, distortion for the filter, saturation effect. So when you change these filters, some of them do have a change in parameters. So for example, the AP Phaser 4 no longer has drive, for example. So this might be. So you see what it does. It has a center position where it's sort of combing in a way. So it's four filters in all pass being phased together. So it can get extremely complicated, but essentially what these are is their filters. I think SR should be. Oh, this is really awesome. You hear it, it's beating. So up to 0, I think, beats, something like that. It's decimating the. Looks like a comb multi sort of sample reduction thing. If you put this thing through Reverb, you're gonna have, I don't know, some sort of Nintendo era 8-bit time. So filters, you know, these are 4 of them, and they're the simplest ones that Zebra allows you. If we switch to something like, for example, comb filters are comb filters. They are called that way because they look like a combing thing. So they have a recurring notching in the actual cut that they apply to the signal, and this can get a lot more complicated. You have feedback, you have tune, you have detune, you even have things that are unique to it like flavor, distortion and stuff. So if we remove this guy and we go with feedback and pre-fill, so what they do is that they take a sort of a super small impulse of your sound, and the sound is generated by taking that, I would call it sample. It's a granular also thing. It's like a very, very, very short interval of signal that just passes through the filter catches it and feeds it back into itself. So if you have feedback, you're gonna hear, as you know, if I have a very, very tiny thing, the feedback, it's gonna die pretty fast. So it's feeding back, but then the needle signal is so short that my signal just dies. If I keep increasing the feedback, I get to a point where 100% the sound is just going straight. So pre-fill means how much you're pre-filling the comb filter, actually. And the pre-fill type can be noise, can be sol, can be square. And you also have how much you want to drive the input in. You can tune it, detune it. You can have vibrato. Tone is kind of, hold on. I think tone only works. tone only works when we have flavor. No, distortion. I mean, look at the sound. Just by dampening, obviously if you have something like this, it's like an FM. It's a kind of a very harsh. For some people, it's pleasing. For most of humanity, it's kind of an annoying sound. But if you dampen it, you have sort of a more pleasing, natural harmonic, sequence. This is pretty good. We're starting from noise, if you think about it. I like it from noise because it has that snap, right? I'm also distorting it, okay. Something like this. I think tone only works when... I have no idea. Oh, right on. Yes. We have comb, we have split comb, we have split dual, we have differential dual comb, we have dissonant, we have cluster, and we have blown. So, except for cluster and blown, which I think even dissonant are more for sound design stuff, split comb, split dual, and diff comb are different type of combing. So, I think it happens that the left and the right channel or something like that in split comb kind of get divided and then get remixed afterwards. Split dual, it's like in pairs. You can go in the manual and look it up. I think it's page, whatever. It's a different, because I think we're talking, this is FMO. See if I find it, but it should be around here. It's like comb. Comb, nice. So, okay, comb is a simple stereo delay tuned to the play note. In this mode, neither tone nor flavor have any effect. Oh, okay, I remembered that. I was about to say. Split comb is the input is summed to mono and fed to the first two delays, and then they're cross-fed into each other. Okay? The split dual is the same, but the input signal is not summed to mono, and the differential one is the same as split dual, but you have a second delay, which is an all-pass filter. So these people, obviously, they have it down, to science because they're sound engineers to the level of sound designers for this point. But most people like myself are like, they're going to do it this way. Like, that's fantastic. How does this sound? So let's go. Comb. Let's put some feedback. Let's go split comb. So you hear there's a subtle difference because, as we said, the sound is summed to mono, but then it's actually not summed to mono because it's summed to mono and then it's fed back into the sum. Yes. If we go to split dual, it's not summed to mono. How is it gonna sound? This is really cool. You hear how my brain immediately says like, okay, comb split dual equals plucked instruments. My mind likes to work that way rather than being too mathematical about it. So split dual is fantastic for turning something like a sawtooth or, with a pre-fill of a noise into really, signal is kind of low, but we can go output and go volume. Sounds really like a plucked instrument, So that's pretty good. Differential comb. That sounds still plucky, but has a lot more body. Dissonant, we're heading into experimental stuff. In the manual, it also says that cluster was meant to be removed, but they haven't so far, but use at your own risk. So let's try dissonant first. Oh, this is amazing. Look at my expression of genuine surprise. So I even have one oscillator and one comb. I already have a conga sound. So can I drive this thing a little bit more? Maybe I go to global. That's like cool. That's fantastic. It's some sort of marimba kind of stuff, calypso music. Still very dry. It's cool. Let's try cluster. Okay. Oh, all right. Let's lower the volume, because that's the fundamental risk in synthesizers is never trust anyone who says like, what's the worst that can happen? No. When you play synthesizers, the worst that can happen is really bad. And it's like getting scared, shitless by some sound that you weren't expecting to come. So I just want to make sure my volume is not over off the charts. So they say cluster was going to be removed from the plugin, but they kept it in. So, use at your own risk. It's fantastic. What about so? Okay, what about blown? Okay, that's blown, and they say in the manual that, and I remember, it's suitable for fluty, air-blown instruments. That's wow. Yes, we agree. Fantastic. So this is just, we're now waking up from this planetary system that we just hyperspaced into. This is just the planetary system of comb filters into Zebra, which this is already a module that has so many possibilities, right? Like crazy. And there's 4 of them. There's 2 of them. Okay. The 4 of them are the FMO, which is the frequency modulated oscillator. So what happens here is that you have an FM oscillator. So you can tune it, detune it, again, vibrato, width. That's kind of simple. We already saw that. You can have pan, volume, amount of FM. So naturally, you might have something that is something like this. Because as you know, FM without modulation or stuff is a sine wave, most of the cases. There's people that do it differently, but that's sort of where you should start, where things should normally start. If we increase the FM, nothing happens because we have an FM by input. I think that if I go by FM self, what happens is I don't need a modulator. I'm self-modulating the same oscillator. So again, stereo doesn't work in this system probably because it's just self-modulating. So what I do is I take oscillator 1 and then FM01, and I don't do FM self, but I go frequency modulation by input. So now the input, which is oscillator 1, and I do this duck face with my my mouth because it just sounds so fantastic. So again, we're using, this is typical FM, but it's really cool because we have, remember, a wave table here. Let me change this guy to the sawtooth pulse. So it's of doubtful taste for some classical musicians. However, it's really cool. I guarantee you there's gonna be video games where you're gonna score something like this. Even as dry as this, and the sound design team is gonna call you and they're gonna go like, Alberto, it's awesome. However, please, can you not do that stuff? We already said classical orchestra. I was like, all right, let's do it. But it's, I could name a couple of games that have something like this, even in the old days because of PWM and the limitations of the synthesis engines. So some retro games today with just this simple FM, and I'm not even a big fan of frequency modulation generator synthesizers, but this is cool. Okay. Then you can do ring modulation on input, which is basically the sum of the two signals, I would say, sort of ring modulation. So, all right, with width in ring modulation, you can hear it. I hear clearly lows going somewhere. So because it's a ring, you might end up in phasing and in cancellation. But it's also pretty good sound. And you have filtered FM, which I think is the same as filter FM by input. Manual will say that for sure if you want to investigate. But you have kind of a filtered modulator, I think. So you don't have as many highs, and you prevent the FM from being that, how can I say that, harsh. Sometimes, you know, FM just gets very old school, clunky and stuff. So there you go. I mean, very tasty, and then it can get very harsh again when I you know, go full blown FM. But if I stay half here and I go here, FM by input, you see the difference, right? I mean, this one, it's very high frequency, spiky sound, and the filtered FM, it's cool. Now, FM self 2 is kind of a weirder thing. It's like FM self, but we have a quadratic function on the FM. I don't even know how to remember all this stuff. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. It should be that. Look it up on the manual. So this is FM self 2, FM self, and FM self 2 again. It's kind of, because it's a quadratic function, then you have a different, obviously, harmonic distribution and stuff. You have 4 of these. These for real, you do have 4 FMOs. What else? Well, then, I would say that up until here, it's all stuff that you gotta know because it's important. Then you have ring. Then you have, where's the ring? That's interesting. What's this guy? Let's see. Just ring modulation? Okay, because it needs to, okay. You even have modules for ring modulation, right? But they don't come up because ring modulation is a variant of amplitude modulation. Choose input signals, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so exactly. So they're gonna feed off your straight up ahead oscillators that you feed them here. So if I make this bus just go away or mute it here, I can only hear now the ring modulation product of Oscillator 1 and Oscillator 2. And because they're identical waveforms, obviously, they kind of, you know, go wherever. Sometimes the ring generates just nothing. Let's try something weird. So, you know, you can even sync these two together and then ring modulate. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and it just makes no sense for me to just try stuff at random. However, I think this kind of concludes everything here. What you might want to look into also, I said there's mixers, okay, where you have pan and mixes, and you have balance left and right, which means then when you mix two oscillators, you're always going to have a balanced left-right, which are going to pan around. If you go pan left-right, you're going to move left to the right or right to the left. It's two different ways of doing panning. Then there's a balance inverted, and then there's a pan inverted, and then there's a pan mono. Essentially, it's a very simple module, but it allows you to mix. I think they added it after a while when people said, like, can we mix things together? It's fantastic. So that's pretty much it. Shapers, edge, you can T-drive, crash, wedge. Shapers, I don't know if you know what they are, but they're generally exciters for oscillators or signals, so they kind of wave shape things. So you can use it for, or obviously like this, it's probably not a very interesting thing, but if we filter it with a normal old drive, right? No idea. Let's see how it works. Or maybe we can shape before the filter. Nothing works. Okay. All right, here. It becomes a little more throaty in a way, right? And I'm doing again that wow thing. So they allow you to shape, usually introduce higher harmonics, I think. T drive should be transformer, so it should probably be harmonics distribution that is similar to transformer stuff. Shaper, something could be odd harmonics, even harmonics, just look it up on the manual. We're not manual people too much, so who cares? Now, the thing that is missing into this whole thing is the envelopes. And it's kind of easy to talk about that, but they can get really complicated, really complicated. So envelopes are here on the right side, and they allow you, obviously, to modify sound in time. Now, what sets these things apart from the rest, in my opinion, is the fact that you have a time base. So you have 8 seconds time, 16, 10 seconds, and you have a quarter note, 1 note. So you have a time base, which could be a quarter note, usually 1-1 or 4-1, depending on what you want to do. And then you can set the obvious attack, decay, and sustain. Release, you can set the velocity, influence of the sound on the envelope. And then you can choose 3 types of, they call them modes, but they're like ways to react, I think, to fast transients. So you have a V-slope, linear, and quadric. I don't know if all of you know that some envelopes are problematic in a way when they have very short bursts of signals going through. They don't behave very well. But because they don't behave very well, they have been appraised by some people. Like, they were wrong. Some Moog synthesizers had envelopes that weren't quite what people wanted, but that's the reason why Moog synthesizers sound the way they do. So you can change these here. Obviously, it's still in the manual. You can make it plainly linear mathematic, you can make it quadratic, or you can make it V-slope. That depends. Plus, I have no idea what it is. It's probably a multiplier for envelope. I haven't touched it. So double click, put it back to normal. Nobody saw anything. Put it there. The tricky thing here, just to name one, is there's also many other things here. It's FR. FR is called fall rise. So you should think about it as a sort of a secondary decay. It's not a hold, it's a secondary decay. So sound moves from the attack to decay to sustain that hits FR, and it could still rise or fall, and then it will hit release when you let off the key. So it's sort of an additional envelope stage. Sometimes it completely, at least when I tried it, completely destroyed what I had. And what's the initial value of? Okay, 0, obviously. And what else? The other, I think, super cool thing for sound designers is that you can have an offset here. So if you set it to none, the envelope's gonna work whatever. If you set it to init, you can set an initial value. So the attack is not gonna start from the bottommost silence, it's gonna start somewhere else. That's pretty cool. The delay is, as in some Rolands and stuff, it's the time after which the envelope will start working. So it's effectively a delay time, okay? This by itself, it's kind of, I wouldn't say simple, but it's already complicated in a way if you think about it. The same thing goes for Lfos, which are still ways of controlling your sound. You have a sync factor, you can restart it for free or gate it, so every time you press a note, the LFO restarts, and then you have a slew rate of fast or slow or off at all. It just changes the behavior of the waveform. The cool thing about this in Zebra, which I don't know how many synthesizers do, is I'm starting to remember stuff that I've read around. It's a polyphonic LFO, so it acts per note, which is pretty good. Allows you to have like lush, thicker sounds. Then we have phase. You can set a phase change, a phase offset. You can set a delay. You can set how much the LFO is going to influence the parameter and the rate of it. Now, there's different envelopes as well than the ones we saw, which is, let me see, the famous MSEGs, MSEG 1, 2, 3, 4. People that have been using more complicated synths, you already know that. I'm winging kind of through this stuff, but it's very technical, and I like the fact that you can obviously go back to the video and look at it. But some people are gonna go like, oh yes, MSEGs, of course. I'm gonna go have a cup of tea. Other people are gonna go like, oh my god, MSEG, and they're just gonna, throw themselves off a window because they just see the graph, they don't know what it is. So these are exactly envelopes. They show how your sound behaves in time. It rises, it falls, and then when you let off the key, it just moves differently. But what's cool about this is that you have full complete control over the time factor and the intensity. So you have time on the x axis, and you have intensity on the y-axis. You can even go editor, which I think again is fairly new. You can make this thing work in full screen. It's definitely much better. And you have three ways of working. I think the last one, I want to start from the last one, is free draw. Methinks. Is it? No. No. So the last one allows you to change the curve of the envelope. The second one, we go backwards, is basically moving the spot, the point I'm moving, but it's affecting the other durations of the two. If I go with the first one instead, you'll see that the 2 points don't change the other. So the one that's before the one I'm moving and the one after is being, not touched. But if I go in the second mode, I preserve the distance of whatever stays right. So anything after is not going to be affected, because I might want to have a change of just this. I promise that all of this is going to come into factor when we go into practice. Oh my God, we're going to go into practice. I can't believe this. We're actually going to do something with this synthesizer. Yes, kids, we're going to do that. The MSEGs can be linked to notes, seconds, quarters, or sixteenths. So when you do that, the grid you see magically turns into 16 notes. It means quarter notes. It means just notes. It means seconds. Okay, and usually like 16ths, for example, you can then change an attack, you can change loop factor, you can change release. That's kind of a typical MSEG thing. And that's a cool thing, you can add, you can shape the MSEG as one of the oscillators you have, which is pretty cool, because you can have an MSEG of a pluck-based thing move or change the behavior of an oscillator that is just a plain sawtooth. So these to prove that things can get very complicated very fast. And this is good though, because when you buy something like this and you invest your money on it, you want to make sure this thing becomes a sort of a work place of yours. In your mind, you gotta be using these for a lot of other things. So you have 4 of these. And how do you assign these stuff? Okay, you assign these stuff to things you've been looking at for an hour or so now, but which we haven't talked about. So all of these small things which have none, and this is where Zebra to me came out like, oh my God, this is really simple actually. It's complicated, but it can get very fast. All of these none things are controls that allow you to modulate with envelopes or LFOs, something that stays on top of that control. So if I want to change the tuning, let's make the most horrible but easy example to do. I want to change the tuning of this oscillator. Let's put it a little bit higher volume. Okay. I want to change, let me go init this, right? I want to change the tuning of this. Oh, thanks Lux Lumen. Kisses to you. That's right. You can say it out loud. No, seriously, thanks. I really like this stuff. So I appreciate the fact that you like, and I know that it's a lot of information. We should actually take a break. Let's take a 5 minutes break. No, we don't. Well, let's take a mental break for everything I said, because I've been talking and I realized that a lot. If it was a real lesson where people were looking at me, people would be probably like this. Like, this is too much. I'm doing this because I want to keep things compact, because you can watch this video for thousands of years in the future. Every day you can watch it 100 times, and in the end you'll be like, mini Alberto, conditioned mind. So let's start changing this sound. I want to change the tuning with the MSEG 1. So it's very simple. You go MSEG1, and now we got movement. This thing is going to affect the tuning. Obviously, we haven't added a depth. It's usually called depth in most synthesizers. Like I usually say how much influence you want this envelope to have on the parameter that you want to change. So if I assign the MSEG1 and I keep it at 0, I see it move. Yeah. Studio One is, I said it a couple of weeks ago, is when I have to compose or do stuff, it's just lovely to use. And I'm usually very picky about those. I have many things to say. And I've been saying things to Presonus for a year or so when I used to do some beta testing and stuff. And they've always followed it to, like, first off, they didn't treat me bad. They said, like, okay, we can do that. And second of all, they actually implemented what the beta testers and people have done. And they come from experience of, I don't want to praise Studio One. They don't need this preaching, but it comes from the experience of many other attempts of other DAWs. So a lot of people met up and said, like, we got to do something that's newer. So I'm totally with you. It works. I guarantee you in months from now, you'll still be looking at Studio One and go like, I can't believe this is so easy to do here. And maybe you go to another DAW and you go like, oh, I have to do it that way. Because, if you're into it, then there's many DAWs as usual. But I think Studio One kind of has the modern, more music producer approach. It's very versatile, but it's still very fast and easy to use, I think. Very user-friendly as well. And it has a color palette that I like. It's kind of dark and futuristic. So there you go. I have it off. So the envelope, I will say the MSEG, is not doing much here because it's moving, but the MSEG is not using any depth. Our depth is at 0. So if we go up, you're suddenly playing Commodore 64 in, what is it, like Pit Stop 2. Oh, I played so many hours of that game. That's it, baby. This was engine noise in the 80s. Yes, I could play this all day, but my cat would probably hear it through the headphones already. So there you have it. You can clearly see what it does, and that's why usually everybody starts off teaching MSEGs with tuning, which is, in sound design, I rarely do this extreme stuff, but it kind of works. So you can, we could do something fancier in a way. We could say, okay, I want a pulse modulation MSEG. So now if I go PWM, maybe go dual. See, we can decide if we want a positive or negative depth, but we have this stuff. So remember that here we can do all sorts of weird things. We can do this, for example. We can add points. Oh God, no, hold on. Want to add more points. So unit snap, value snap. You see, you can snap stuff vertically with value snap. You can snap stuff horizontally with units. You can double size, half size. You can quantize to snap. You can do whatever you want. You can add a point here. I think. Methinks it's add another one. Oh no, because I have 4 points. I want to add more. I want to add more of this. Pointer fine, half size, units down. Oh, I can do this. Hold on. Gate strum. There we go. I want to try this thing. I actually wanted a more squarish thing. Twin. Okay. These have probably reasons why they're so weird and stuff. So this is kind of cool. Pentatonic down. All right. So let's try MSEG here. This is when you die, like you hit a fireball and your character dies. Beep, 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 beep. Fantastic. This is Donkey Kong. I mean, we're doing it in the most simple of ways, but if I want to do it faster, I think I can. See, I can increase. And now we're shooting lasers all of a sudden in the 80s. Or like a slower paced Commodore 64. Exactly. That's 80s lasers, people. The reason why you came to this masterclass. Now you know how to do the lasers. Fire the lasers. That was good. That felt good. We know how to do the lasers. It's a scaled down pentatonic stuff. Fantastic. So again, you can use it for more productive ways, but are there, well, 90s lasers probably have just reverb on top of that. Well, you should think about that. Pentatonic, that stuff, and again, you can change. This, I guarantee you, for example, this on a more serious note is a very useful thing because you have a sort of a realistic pitch change in real pluck instruments. When you pluck a string, it's actually different in pitch than its source. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, we can assign LFOs as well. So let's try and do something different that does not involve MSEG here. So LFOs. That's the introduction of a space game where you have to jump into your spaceship and go. You know, and all of that stuff. This is pretty cool. We can change the waveform. Obviously, if we go so down and we kind of go gate, well, there's no actual way to really do it here. Some LFOs in some plugs, they allow you to do one cycle and that's it. But it would make little sense having MSEGs and LFOs be able to do that. So that makes pretty sense. So you can see delay. Look, yeah. Yeah, that's how it works. You know, you gotta have a picture in mind whenever you hear a sound. You know? Or probably I played too many video games. We're not supposed to say that. It's for work. Let's steal cannons or some sort of space weapons. But all right, we got into this vibe now. But at least you're getting where it is, and you kind of woke up, which is good because some people are like, I'm dying of too much information, and you can do all sorts of things. So you can have a mix module, change the sync value. You can have an LFO gate. You can have an envelope. You have 4 envelopes. So the good thing about this, which you have to remember, is that why don't I see envelope 2? You don't see envelope 2 because nothing is using envelope 2. That's very, how would I say, like it's a good economy and a good use of space. Whenever I put this thing into gate envelope 2, boom, envelope 2 pops up because now, obviously, I need envelope 2 to be visible, right? So we're gonna do sync and we're gonna do something like this. So we don't hear it because the depth is at 0. Remember that when you wake up in the morning, is the depth at 0? Yes, you. Yeah. It's a scary game of the castle and the guy that has to go in and die probably. I remember this game was a game I couldn't figure out how to play when I was young. Which I think it's some sort of Dragon's Quest. Yes, probably. I would just die, start the game and die. But as a young kid, I would still play it, you know? Or it's just whatever. So I don't want to give away all my tricks, you know, for how I kind of learned. So that's okay. So we have a short attack, super short decay, and we have an existence sustain. And that's why you hear, boom, a one-time thing, right? If we go LFO, 1. Now we're talking. It's the year 3059. Humanity has been reduced to a couple hundred people in the refugees of an island race. But there's you. You can save them. You know, something like that. So now we have an LFO controlling the sync, and it's just a stupid one oscillator, no effects. Yeah, exactly. Robots rule the land. I would be probably there. So what happens if we want to use envelope? Because I want to see what this FR does. So now we have short attack, okay, fast attack. Okay, let's do it like this. There we go. So I go positive, and now I'm in the F. So, no, sorry, I'm in the R, rise. So it goes to sustain, and then it comes back again. I'm gonna let you in my little secret. I spent so much time talking about technical stuff that anything I play now, I'm gonna sound like the most amazing musician ever made. That's how I got to where I am in life. It's just because I bore people to death, and then I play one minor chord, and they're like, this guy, he has it. No, you're coming from the land of the dead, from just mathematical information to music. But anyway, it works. You gotta do what you gotta do. So now we explored the FR, which it took me like these I guarantee you, it took me like 3 days to say like, what is it? What is this thing? Then I went to the manual and I read it, and I was like, oh, okay, it makes real sense. There's a graph in the manual, and it just shows it's an additional point where you would either go up if you want to rise or fall. So then we have the release. We can have the effect of velocity on it if we want. Usually don't like it. I like the double reset. What else? Envelope. We can also modulate, obviously, for example, the pan. I don't know. So if I set this to envelope 2, or actually LFO 2, we now have a secondary LFO which controls the pan. And we can drive ourselves nuts in headphones like this, or as such. All right, this is a pretty cool effect, right? So how do I, and this is where it's fun, change this thing? So yes, you can modulate a modulator because, people are nuts. So we're going to use another LFO, an LFO G1, or maybe LFO 1. Oh, this is going to be interesting. We're going to use LFO 1 to modulate, or actually, no, let's use MSEG 1. And let's make MSEG 1 something stupidly... Okay, this one, it's fine. Or this is better. So, more depth. Okay, something that goes weirdly out of place. Sorry. If you do something like this, maybe we use a filter. We haven't even used a filter. Let me use something more. So what are we doing here? We are modulating the LFO2, which is controlling the pan. We are using MSEG 1 to determine the speed of the LFO that controls the pan. And it can go on for quite a while sometimes. So you can even modulate the volume, for example, through something else. We could have, I don't know, MSEG 4 or LFO 4 do this. So now we have, something. We're changing the volume with this sine wave, for example. It can get as crazy as you want. So essentially, this is, I would say, pretty much everything on the main modulation sources that we have. Let me go back. I could even randomize this to something easier, but let's remove this as well. And there's a couple fun things in here as well, which is the LFOs. There's LFO G1s, which are kind of simpler gate. Why are they called G? I don't remember anymore. But let's look at them. They kind of look like... That's pretty good. Why is it doing that? Let's find out. So can't this do the same? LFO1? It is. So it's essentially the same thing. Okay. I mean, come on. I'm not putting a reverb and delay here because you're gonna get distracted by how awesome it could sound. In a way, I can still hear the pitch. Let me try and find it. I can still hear the pitch somehow, so it could be used. I'm not gonna use reverb because you're gonna hear how much reverb we have in this other in this other example that we're doing. So that's pretty much all of it. You obviously have an arpeggiator as well. So this arpeggiator is here, and you gotta make sure that in global you set. I don't usually go into this stuff because you have a swing based, you can set it to mono and polyphonic or arpeggiator or duophonic like an Odyssey, soft attack or not, you can set glide. This is pretty typical. You can have few voices, medium polyphony, or many. You can have a voice drift, sort of like in vintage things. And you can have micro tuning as well, which is pretty popular these days for people who obviously gotta be into it to do it, but you know, it's here. I think all of the U-he plugins do have micro tuning, so they're pretty much there already. So the Arp Sequencer, you would go arpeggiator, otherwise it won't work. This is Zelda, people, right there. There you have it. So it's arpeggiating for me, and you can go forward, backward, forward, backward, backward, forward. I know a lot of you guys do a lot of electronic music already, so me telling you this, it will be like, this guy. I know already, right? So what you can do here is you have voices, you have transpose, you have gate, you can choose things to be shorter, longer, you can go same, first, last, typical, you can decide how many voices you want to assign. You hear it's like a baser thing. So it accents things. And you can use this to actually work as arpeggiator, modulator, and modulator 2 to your advantage, because you can modulate stuff through the arpeggiator, which is, you know, pretty advanced and cool if you have a sequence. Other synths do it with different windows, but it's essentially the same thing, and it's really, really useful sometimes. So what else? You can, I think, in the Matrix, you could sometimes, I don't remember how you do it with controller stuff. There was a way to target stuff. So the Matrix is an additional level of the plugin where you have a source, you have a target, and you can essentially do whatever you want here. You can say that LFO G1 is the target for, and you go aim for stuff. So your laser is gonna go to, I don't know, wave, for example, boom. So you set how much of the source you wanna get there, and then LFO gate 1, when we go here, should change it. Where is it? Where is this guy? Ah, it is changing it, right? Ah, no, because we have picogram. Alright. So oscillator 1 wave warp is going to be here, and we can also set a dial mod wheel, for example. Do I have a mod wheel here? No. Yes. Yeah, maybe. I don't have it mapped here, funny enough. Three notes. Alright, that works. So this matrix is a matrix. Like, it says where things go to change in things in real time. So you have a source, you have a target, and you have an amount that the source is able to influence your parameter, and then you have a multiplier. So something can decide how much of the source. So it's right in between. That's why it's called via. So you have the source, and then you have this guy in the middle that says, hold on, you can only do this much to the target, and that can be a secondary parameter that just links the source and target together. In the end, you have an XY, which is the performance pane. And then I think it's really, really done. We're done with this. So what happens here is that you can say, I want the tuning, or I want, for example, the sync to be assigned to X1, and I want the phase modulation to be assigned to Y1. So when I go here, I can change these two parameters in sync with an XY pad, which is really good for performance stuff, right? Now, the only thing that I need to tell you about this is this final part. So this segment here in gray means the limit of your values. But so you can go, negative and positive, and you can decide, whatever you want. You can put it here, for example. So the 0 is really sort of a 0, and then you go down and up. But these little triangles are the limit. So you can have something centered, but still have a reduced amount of effect. The power of G minor. I don't know, Yeah, exactly. Now it's not, because the old Depeche Mode, they used to do a lot of mangling of the sound, but syncing was kind of, I think it's one of the bands that kind of used sync, wave syncing, wave shaping syncing, and waveform synchronization, I think the most. You're right. I don't know why. It had that sound because it gets glassy and crystallish in a way, which is, I would say, the early Depeche Mode had that, also in the mixing technique and stuff. So here you can set these four. You have X1, Y1, X2, Y2, X3, Y2, 3. And for each of these, look at how many things you can set. So 8, I think, right? 2, 4, 6, 8. Yes. So 8 parameters can be mapped as an X of one pad, and 8 can be set as the Y of one pad, and you have 4 times this. So 16 things being changed, 4 times. That's it. All this 64 modulation stuff and things. So that's pretty much it. We saw the global, which is like the common parameters. We didn't talk about the effects, but these effects are maybe the most resembling, the easiest to resemble things that you've seen outside. So you have delay, mod effects. What is this? Mod effects 1. Okay. Chorus, phaser, chorus. What is this? It's a phaser chorus. It's a chorus. So you have a chorus as well. You don't have it in other plugin, I think. This is the first time I read that. Then you have delays, you have shapers, mixers, you have reverb, ring modulator, 2 compressors, equalizers, VCF, F6, so it's filters. Holy moly, you have even more filters. Up to the point sometimes that you don't know how to design your patch, because you start doing like, I'm gonna do this here. Oh no, wait, I'm gonna do this there. Oh no, wait, I'm gonna do this there. And you're like, oh, yeah, it's too complicated. It happens. But the only way is knowing that these things are here. So there's also an SB3, which is the sideband, which I was forgetting the name at the start. Equalizer. This is an EQ. And hold on. These I remember I used a couple days ago when I tried. I was like, oh, there's an EQ. But the fun thing is that you can say, let me try and see this. Let's try and do it in XY2. Where's 2? These guys 2 or these guys 2? Bus 2, pan 1, bus 1. I should probably write. I enter text. Hello. All right, so, and that's good. Fantastic. So I want to try and see if I can change this guy. Can I? No, hold on. I think we're able to modulate those points with whatever, maybe with an LFO as well. Let's try and see that. I think I could. Can I? Can I? No. Matrix, maybe. Matrix. No, because with Matrix I should be able to go there. So, you should have to look this up because I'm pretty confident that you can change this. Well, first off, you can change the cue with whatever shortcut happens to be there. No, I don't want my keyboard in Italian. I've been doing a lot of reviews for subtitles in Italian, so that's the keyword that's there, but I don't want it now. So, all right, we have to look this up because this is kind of important. So EQ, go here. Let's look it up. I'm confident you can. All right, EQ curve, FX grid, okay, should be around here. Sorry for the heavy scrolling, there we go. In Zebra2, they're very useful for tweaking. All 12 parameters are available in the matrix as modulation targets. The highlighted entry in the menu here is actually the horizontal position slide. Fantastic. So, thank you for waiting for me. In the matrix, target. So, there we go. Right click and you have this guy. So, now we go equalizer 2, right? And we go frequency low shelf or frequency mid or Q mid 2, for example, frequency high shelf. Okay, let's do this. So now we want to change this to LFO 1 and we're going to change the shelf. Is it going to work? Let's see. It should. EQ 2 though. I would need maybe EQ 1. No? Just make sure that. No, I think that's fine. Okay, global. I don't hear it change though. LFO, why are you not working? That's the guy here. Because I assigned it to modulation wheel, maybe. Oh yes. Haha. Man, I'm still pretty lucid. For having talked 2 hours about this guy for a plugin that I barely know. So it's doing that. It's doing that. Thanks for the encouragement. I think it is. Okay, this would be more. It would be clearer. Gate free. What are we modulating here? Yes, let's go frequency 2, not high shelf, but let's do the low shelf, gain. Ah, we were doing frequency, of course, then it's like kind of weird. But I don't see it move. Although it kind of does sound like it's doing a little bit of this. So don't quote me on that, but the manual clearly says that you can change these parameters with the matrix, and we should be now changing it, right? Yes, of course. So it makes sense. The only thing is, I wish this would move. Note for U-he or U-he. I wish these things would do this. Other than that, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I did something wrong, and they would, but I think I got it pretty right. So. You know, but you can, that's a good thing, you can affect the equalizer with automation or envelopes or whatever, which some people say like, okay, I get it, you can do it, I don't care, you know, but how cool is that? Let me turn on some light. And, well, yes, but it's actually really cool because sometimes you have sounds that don't quite work in some areas and you wish you had an equalizer, but you don't want to put an EQ on the insert track and whatever because it's just like, I don't want to do it. It's just, you know, not where I would envision the EQ to be. You can do it here and you can even massage it with your parameters here. It can be an MSEC, can be whatever, because you can use any of these sources to change anything in the effects as well. So I think like they had this idea in mind with Zebra. Let's make something that allows you to do everything, everywhere, anywhere, people might think. You know, it's also the product of years, I think, now, because it's been out quite a while. So people probably requested functions and things there. So what do we do here? We're gonna do something fun to close. We have around 10, 15 minutes or something, 20 minutes. We're going to try to create a sound from an example that I have, all right? And we might fail miserably, but the fun of this is that I was putting order. I don't want to say order because it's not quite that. I would say like I was looking into old hard drives to find out if there's anything I can trash and make room for other archival and backups and stuff. And I got into some old sessions and I found something from a synthesis masterclass that I did in 2012, it should be, or 11. But I'm thinking it should have been 12, but it was NAMM 2012. During that period, there was a synthesis masterclass for a plugin, I think a synthesizer, something I was endorsing at the time. And I had this sort of like science fiction thing from, I don't want to, talk too much about that, but there were a lot of famous composers and stuff at the talk, and it was kind of a cool thing. So we got into this. I don't want to spoil what this is. Oh, why this thing disappeared? Don't disappear. I don't want to spoil this too much, but it's sort of an example from things that I made with the help also of these guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to a couple tracks that I took out of context because the session was in Pro Tools, I think, or Ableton, I don't remember, but I got just the WAV files there. So I took some of the WAV files, I cut a little bit of a piece, and I put these pad 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 just for context for you to make it less boring, sort of. Then we have this printed audio track. The blue one is gonna be the one we're gonna try and replicate. And this is a game, sort of learning game that I do a lot with people that I teach synthesis to, and I think it's one of the things you probably do already. When you have a sound that you hear and like, people ask like, how do they get it? For the purpose of this synthesis, this masterclass, I wasn't the genius coming up with all of this. This comes from a soundtrack that has been written and that is fantastic, and I had the possibility of being over the shoulder of the guy that had done part of these for the masterclass and stuff, because not for the actual soundtrack, but for the masterclass afterwards. So I don't want to say I cheated, but I know and kind of remember some of the parameters of this, but it's still gonna be cool. It doesn't have to be now me proving that I can get to this sound, because I haven't done it in Zebra, and I guarantee you Zebra was not used for this sound, for that masterclass. So I'm not gonna go copy paste and stuff. We're gonna start from this sound. Ooh, super interesting, but maybe some of you will understand it. I won't spoil what this is, but let's hear first just the pads one by one. So we start here. No, actually, let's start from the bottom. Let's start from the one that starts here. Pad 2. It's intentionally not too loud. Maybe we can make it a tad bit louder. So just a static chord in this part. Alright? Then there's pad 3. Kind of similar. Pad 4, very somehow uninteresting, but, and pad 5. And then there's pad 1, which comes like halfway through, which is this thing. Here you see I put a groove delay. Man, Studio One has amazing effects. And this, for example, is a great tap. I'm very picky on tap delays, and I usually use a combination of different plugs. This can do pretty much everything in one plug. So this is pad 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5. It's just, I think, G, F sharp, yeah, okay. So I won't be playing this because I have the MIDI. So this was the MIDI from the session. So here's the solo in MIDI. I know it's painful, but that's the MIDI. Because we're using this stupid sound. We have to get here. Okay, so the context, the purple tracks are just context, but this is mostly what we have to get there. So we're gonna, I would call these a plucked synth. A lot of people in trance music kind of call them plucks. And because they are sort of pluckish in a way, right? It's just a very short thing, and it's gonna be a cool synthesis exercise. So again, not my song, beautiful soundtrack, and somebody might pick it up. Let's see. But this track here, the blue one, we have to get to it by reaching out up to this. Believe it or not, that's the MIDI that was used to generate the blue track. And our orange track, which we're gonna make something painfully cyan, no, green, yellow. Our yellow track is still very far, right? So one way I would do it, and again, I'm not going into darkness, I remember part of the thing. So we have to have a short envelope. We have to have I'm gonna guide you through this. We're gonna have a couple oscillators, if not 3 or 4 oscillators, we'll see. And we need some autopan, and the effects in this genre are super important. You don't just generate these from oscillators and filters. It's actually a lot of delay, ping pong work, and reverb work. So when I heard that, I was like, I'm gonna use these tomorrow because the effects in Zebra are super. And if I haven't told you so, you can even use a Zebra reverb. When you buy Zebra, you have this Zverb, which is a single plugin for a reverb, and it's awesome. I have a couple presets of mine which I'm very secretive about because they are part of why I kind of get into like bigger reverbs and like high sound design. So when I'm jealous about something, it means it's really, really good in my opinion. So, but yeah, the Zverb is great. And then you have Zebrify as well, which is an insert plugin that allows you to take audio input and put it into Zebra. So it's awesome. So here, let's do this. So the first oscillator we're gonna use, it's gonna be something that goes into a filter 1, and we're gonna go with the 12 dBs per octave. I wish there was a 48. I guarantee you that, because I remember that we kind of went, I don't remember the synth we originated these on. I don't want to name names because I'm not sure, but let's try LP Vintage, or let's try, we would need something like a 48 dBs per octave, which some synths have to have very, very sharp, but I'll go with mid-drive. So, man, it's gonna be long. So we do this, no drive, but we start with the single oscillator. We're gonna take just a normal, so I think that's fine, single one, and we have to change the envelope of this sound to make sure that the sound actually, you know, behaves the way we want. So we have to make it vary like this, sort of. Wow, that was fast. That was pretty fast. This is controlling the amplifier, right? But I want the filter cutoff to be modulated by a second envelope. And I'm telling you what, I want to use the MSEG because I want to set the MSEG to pluck easy, pluck off, pluck easy. Pluck easy is fine. So now the filter is doing this. And let's see. So you see what we're doing, right? Right? Something like this. I actually think we should use sort of a gate envelope. Let me see. This is actually pretty good. Maybe we can make it longer. No, I would do this. I would actually start with this. It's pretty good. We need that little bit of a plucky thing, right? So why don't we try and use the detune with the MSEG, maybe 1 as well, so we're syncing on, and we try and go a little bit more into... No, not like this. Hold on. Maybe wave. That's definitely not like this. Let's try with the MSEG. Okay, we got... Kinda got it. Syncing. My God, if I can push this with just 2 oscillators, I'm beating the original one. Let's remember how we sounded. Okay, still far. Okay, I mean, think about how far we're still. You know, this is usually sculpting sound. It doesn't have to be the same. It will never get to be the same. So I would say this is okay. Now, one thing I want, because I remember that we had, was I want oscillator 4 to be maybe filtered by filter 4, right? And I want to make this guy not track. Let me see if I can I have this oscillator not track? I'm sure I can, because I need this guy to be constantly an F sharp. So that's gonna be hard. How do we pitch this guy? Oscillator effects, mixer. Maybe can I do this? I don't want to look at the manual. I shouldn't be looking at the manual. So, well, the thing is, I still want to tune it down. 12. Okay, let's open this guy up as well. So VCF 4, I can move stuff around. If you touch this stuff, I can still do, for example, this or this. So now we actually have to do this guy, right? Voila. So we have oscillator. No, I was right before. Oscillator 1, filter 1, oscillator 4, filter 4. Remember, the order of this is not important. What matters is the order in here, right? So this is down 4. Let's try and see oscillator 4, which kind of... Okay, I have to be able to hear it through this. So let me hear. Okay, this could be cool. These I like. You hear it's just like a lower kind of vibe. Then I would just try and do effects right off. At this point, I have 2 oscillators. I probably would like to have... Let's do the thing that where we had this comb filter, right? That was sounding like I don't hear it. Where is it? Yeah, pre-fill. Feel yourself. You remember this? Diff comb? No. This is also good. Ooh, hear this. How about we go up an octave? Where is oscillator 4? Here. No. Oscillator 2. Where are you? come here. See, I'm clicking in between, and this thing is going down because I want it to be here low. All right, more feedback, more. This could be very useful because it adds our, you know, thing. Let's try and go. Could be that. Okay, not that. Okay. Okay, without. Okay. Okay, okay. Kind of a different flavor. This guy is not doing much for us. Let's try and sync it. Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. Man, this is gonna, I mean, I probably pushed it too hard for 2 hours. All right, so I'm hearing there's a higher octave. So I'm gonna go 12 with this guy. Let's try and see. Maybe even more. Ah, that doesn't change that much. Hold on, we have to tune it here. Right on. That's the thing we're missing. All right, so now we have octaves. I want to do one more oscillator. Let's do it with 4. Who cares? I want to do the, what we had, like another comp? Not comp? Yes, maybe. I want to have, let me try and see, maybe with the normal filter here. Let's take this guy out. Let's go with the filter, because one thing I can tell you that I remember was that there was a sort of an organ waveform, and I saw it passing by here, oscillator 3, single, dual. There was a waveform here that said organ full. Let's hear how it is with no filter. This, man, I got it. This, that's just one. It's just that drawbar quality to it, which we wouldn't even need to filter, honestly. So why do I want to filter it? I don't want to filter. Okay, maybe we can get a little more. No. Okay. Yeah. Let's filter it because we can. Okay. Who's this guy? Okay, I want to pan this thing to LFO 1. So one thing that I hear is also we have a sort of like a left-right thing. So let me see if this guy is moving. Okay. Okay, 1/8. Okay, this thing is critical because it's gonna affect our reverb and delay. So first thing I want to do is, I remember we had a sort of a chorusy thing. Again, I'm not cheating. I remember sort of how we built this. So here we go. Quad, even it's even quadratic, like it's like 4 times. So all 4. Come on. If you can picture it with the reverb, I mean, obviously, because I kind of knew where I was going. So center spread, it's just okay. I like it like this, no equalizer. Then we go into a delay. Let's do it like this. We go delay and then we go reverb. But the reverb was after the delay, so we don't need to open a different bus, but we have to open bus 1 completely here. And this. Man, that's horrible. That's pretty bad. So what do we need here? We need multi-tap 4, I think. Okay, and then everything kind of wet, sort of. So as you hear, we have, let me say without the delay, we have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. I would serial 2, maybe stereo 2. Let's try and take this guy. Ah, this is the pan factor of them or not? What's this? Pan and ratio. Okay, so I want 1/4 and I want 1/8 dot. Can I hear something? That's not this. That's not the. They're not the droids you're looking for. Let me see. Okay. Okay, that's with the ratio 1 and 2 at like 0, things were like pretty not sounding that good. I don't think we need a pan pot super like a. Okay. Now let's see where I have to go here. Like we need a lot of room, like a lot of it. And if I can't get it with the reverb, I doubt that I can. What is it, new reverb? Okay, this is pretty good. We need a ton of it. Okay, let's try and put this guy also here. Reverb. Can I put another new verb here? Ah, no, I can't. But I can put this reverb that I had disregarded. Send to. Okay, now I want to hear just bass 2. Okay, why? This sounds kind of not the reverb we need. We need like a lot of it. It's a cool sound, but we don't need that. It's more of a modern, yeah, kind of that. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a mix here. Man, if I can pull this off. There we go. So now we have this reverb, which is taking part of this. Right on. Okay. Okay, let me turn this guy on. Why am I not hearing anything? Pan mod mix. We should be here. Come on. Where's this guy? Where's this guy? Where are you? Are we sending to 2? Yes. That's new. Okay. Why are we not having? Okay. But that's no longer our super long reverb. Where are you? Super long reverb. Let me see this guy. Nothing's coming out of here, but we have sent to. It should, right? It should. I can't say I hit a bug, but dry wet. Ah, so I hear it, but oh, he's back. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to send the delay in the reverb. Let's try and now it's not happening. Okay, why is it not happening? Ah, because it's just delay. No. Okay, now I'm hearing both. That's pretty fun though. I think it should be one after the other, right? Ah, there we go. There we go. The inputs of this were wrong. So input 1, input 2, input 3. If I plan input 2 here and it stays there, then we have troubles. Okay. But I want this to be There we go. Ah, thank you. Okay, how about this? Let's hear the original. Maybe it's gonna kick my butt. It is. I mean, it's completely different. There's a lot of ping pongs in here. Okay, we do have the attack though. We even have too much of it. Okay, not too unhappy about it. Let me change some stuff. There's a higher quality of this guy, right? I like these though, and this sound, I kinda like it better. Yes, let's try and distort this guy. So you click it and it just scrolls to you. Let's try it. There we go. The quality of the oscillator also was kind of... Let me try and see. Maybe we had like a more of a... Okay, this is kind of cool. But the reverb, I'm not hearing. Reverb, where are you? I'm still thinking. Okay, now we got it. I mean, here the quality of this reverb. I'm still thinking I'm hitting either something that doesn't work. I mean, this is incredible. And just this would be sound design by itself. Oh my god. Okay. This thing is no longer going anywhere. Dampening? Oh, so the size is incredibly, like it gets to infinite probably. There's no values. I like the tone of it. I'm still not sure I'm getting, you know, maybe it's either bugs or whatever. Okay, let me see I'm not clipping or anything because it's kind of a weirder. So let's hear it with that's the fun thing. So let's do solo exempt for these guys. How do I do it? Here shift, because I have the Pro Tools shortcut in mind. And let's try and do one and the other. Obviously they're gonna be different, but let's see where I got it. Man. Also we're loud, I think. Nah, we're way too sharp. Way too sharp, way too long. Oh, it's completely different scene. Also. We need a little bit of that, right? Well, you get the idea. I mean, still cool. We're still rolling. This thing I could change. That's I like. This I really like. Okay, we could add envelope 2, for example, to this. Maybe to the filter. It's different. It's cool. Let's do LFO 1. We're doing now phase modulation on it. That's pretty good. Maybe we tune it up. Nice. Okay. That's 4, right? Yes. Okay, let's go to 4. And we got the... See, we're changing all of the... Maybe here it could be cool to go... Yeah, back to the geomorph. You can hear we're filtering that. Filter 4. It doesn't even matter the order. I'm gonna try and go... We had a little bit of a bandpass, I think, in the original. There we go. Right. Wow, that's a different vibe. Nice. So this is a bandpass resonant. How about this? This is too low. Let's try band reject, all pass, all round maybe. Okay, now here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take the cutoff. We're gonna use filter LFO 4 to modulate the filter opening, but not too much, just very slow. Obviously, this is a lot, right? It's different sound. Okay, taking on with that one. Okay, I kind of like the res band. I want it to sweep around. There we go. I want to maintain a bit of that. So see, if I move this is too fast, right? So we take, I save 1 bar or 4 bars, 2 bars. But just a little bit of that. I mean, here the original. We have like a crazy amount of the... I think that's a special ping pong. I'm starting to think I know which plug this is. But I remember something else. So we have an octave that is probably too loud. Even this one. There we go. So I will take Oscillator 1, go up an octave. Go up. Nice. Let me try. It's kind of cool. Try this. Everybody's gonna sing this. This for example is critical. Getting there. I regard some of the EQs. One other thing I want to do here is I want to take. Let me take a mixer maybe, or actually compressor 1. Not in the reverb, but I want to take mod 1 or this. And compress it. See? it's very important. This is kind of a, okay, this compressor is doing sort of a upwards compression. And you hear how it blends with the mix. Okay, now I'm gonna take an EQ. So here I'm like in between mixing, but I can do this in the plug. That's a cool thing. And here is Alberto with the hat of a sound engineer now. And now we're gonna take the matrix, and we're gonna say that we want Lfos 4 to modulate. We actually have 3 yet, so it's actually 3. So we're gonna use 3 to modulate the equalizer 1, the second, the frequency 2, mid 2 frequency. That should be it. So what happens, no, it's actually 3, sorry, not 2. Yes, okay, mid 2, that's right. So now we're modulating this thing, which we could also put on the XY. Can we? Yes, we can. Equalizer 1, we go frequency gain, and the Y we go, man, it's also dark, so it's getting a better vibe, and we go gain mid 2. So now, if I do this, yes, it's also modulating that. I also want to do this, in fact. Equalizer 1, gain mid 2, LFO 3. You hear how step by step we're different, but still. I'm even changing that, okay, now a bit less of compression. And we need a tone load more feedback. So maybe less crossback, but more. Because that was the thing right here. Okay, the only thing I got really different is that I have a much more resonant sound, and this has a more of an organ kind of vibe. This is way too much compression. So okay, I like this better. Right? So we use the 4 oscillators. Let me hear how this sounds together. Let me mute these 4. Obviously, this is way different. I think the plug we use also have lots of effects. So we got it's kind of a very cool sound. So how does Oscillator 1 sound? I think I'm gonna use a shaper here. But you hear the delay is very important for this. So let's see. Because we need a little bit of that sizzle. So this is mostly like a distortion kind of thing. Oh, maybe shaper 2 then. I really like this sound. Oh, there we go. A little bit more edge. So that's just one oscillator. The second one, oh, that's the reason why we're heading into a little bit more of a... kind of like it, but that goes into We have this calm thing that is more blown. No. There we go. Boom. That's exactly the quality that we were looking for, that it wasn't from a blown type of instrument, but the split dual gets it. Now, it's kind of a high pitch. We go to 12. You hear that, right? It's a little bit sandy. It's like sand, this one in blue. And we have a much more percussive thing, and probably because we have this... Yeah, we have the compressor, which is like strong. I have to say, these compressors kind of does not take any prisoner. Man, look at this. It's a bit too aggressive. So maybe I'll take it out. Or maybe we use compressor 2. Is it the same compressor 2? Yes, okay. Then no. I'm sure the programmers that are watching these are gonna go like, why doesn't he use this? Well, because I don't know it yet. Let's use EQ2. No, that's fine. Let's not use this because it's already kind of compressing there. But so this is just one oscillator. Okay, I would probably go filter 2 and go take a bit. We need a little bit of that, right? Maybe a 12. I kind of like it. Without filter? Yeah, okay. Could be also without filter, but with a little bit more... Let's try this. See, that quality of... You can definitely get this kind of sound. Like, this comb filter is the trick for plugs, like, definitely. So if you're into trance music or whatever that has a lot of plugs, that even open filters and stuff, you can hear it, like, it's generating them. Even better with a soul, maybe. That's beautiful. Let me see. This is a little bit too aggressive, maybe with less pre-fill. Okay, that works, but see, we're still very spiky. If we go soul, man, these are really loud, and now I don't even know how the original sounded. Well, there's also a lot of a different, like, the reverb is completely different. How about we zebrify this and we don't use reverb? Man, let's zebrify this guy. Not zebrify, sorry. Let's Z-rev. Look, hear this reverb out. This is insane. I have to find the one that really triggers. Awesome, okay. It just goes incredibly well with delays. Sorry to keep you dreaming into this thing, but it's just like becomes an instrument after a while, right? You have to like Okay. It's a very different quality than what we had here. It's much darker, this one for example. It's a different color. It's a different beast. Now let's wait until the reverb kind of settles. Because if you move it, nope. So this is kind of super dry. Two of them. No. Let's go. Okay, we got a much more, like a much darker vibe in a way, but if we're not using this reverb, I could use some shaper and send this guy to bus 2. Ah, we're getting some. Hold on. There we go. It stabilizes after a while. Right. Shape, T-Drive, I want to go crush. To add a little bit of that. And we can modulate these. That's fantastic. That's going to be my last touch. LFO 4. 4. To add a little bit of. For the fourth one, right? Which was this. Where is it? Whoa, we don't hear it. Bus 2, where are you? Here. Okay, so we're feeding it into that. Okay, too much. Way too much. That's something you hear a lot in trance music as well. With your wedge. That's too much. Ah, I mean, come on, these sounds are amazing, even if we're not trying to emulate that. You hear the lows now that we have in this. Ah, fantastic. I don't pan the lows because obviously that's gonna make it, but the volume, yes, the lows are 1 center. We're kind of pitching in and out. Okay, let's try this. Different vibe. A lot less dry, more wet. Definitely different. Definitely like really different. But different kind of vibe in a way. And I think Reverb kind of got it to sound a bit more. Because obviously the issue when you compose stuff and sometimes you have something in your ear is if you have these in your mind, right? You wanna go. You might go like, it's completely different. But you take a break. If it's a song you made and it's something completely, it can be anything. Just focus on that. The other one's kind of bright, so you could go for a darker vibe. That would be it. It kind of works anyway. I would still go more feedback. kind of a tricky delay too. Maybe if we do even more delays, who knows? True. Here. I mean, this is just pure sound design. The delay sounds fantastic. It's that the one we had was more of a multi-tap. Maybe it was me that I chose. There we go. So I had stereo 2. I think multi-tap 2. Multi-tap 4 sounds kind of cooler. It does more of what we wanted, probably. Let's do the opposite here. Here the ratios. Feeding back, I really like the fact that this delay, which is something that I really like on a lot of synths, and what we've done with the comb filtering and filters and stuff, is that you can hear the overtones that are generating almost like a voicing, like something you're playing completely different. And you hear like an octave and a fifth above. You hear something goes along that line here. Which is where the voice goes. And it's the delay and the reverb creating that. So sometimes I used to see virtual instruments and I used to see them and say like, oh, they have a lot of effects, but I was more interested in the oscillators. Well, no, the instrument in the end is really that thing that gives you the idea of it becomes an instrument in its own. So, this was the journey that we had. And obviously we took this up to a point where it sounds different. It has a more plucky thing. But a lot of people sometimes tell me like, oh, I can't get this sound. I can't get this sound. There's plenty of them. And if I start learning this better and I want to get to a different vibe, we'll get to a point where you can hear that Zebra does its thing, where there's one filter that you like better and it just works in some way. And the other one that we used has a different vibe. The ping pong is different and stuff, but it's clearly capable of doing all of this stuff. And so it's the drifting and the voices, and it really, really becomes complex. It becomes versatile in a way that, here's the part we're using. And you can mix and match these four. See, I'm reshaping the oscillators and we get a lower tape. And if we change something, you can even change the attack. Drugged on this riff. When I heard it, I was like, I remembered this part that I did, what is it, like 8 years ago, it was for this and this thing, and we were analyzing soundtracks for games, and I was like, I want to do this. I have no idea. I could look it up what kind of original virtual instrument we used. Definitely not Zebra. So that's it, If that was just, wild ride trying to get something to work, a sort of a plucky thing, you can do all sorts of things. And there's presets for days, and they're not just, you know, stupid thing. There's like a lot of them. There are fantastic preset packs for like, you know, $10, $14 or everything that a lot of talented people do. And like other scenes, you can just get a pack when they're on sale, and they give you a lot of inspiration, because sometimes you try them and you go like, you know, you gotta get an idea, and maybe today you have to deliver a song and you have no idea, and you can do it. So that's fantastic. So this was Zebra with all of its things. I'm looking forward to do more. They have clearly, even U-he by itself has a lot more, and that was quite a wild ride. We started from that sound to this vibey, more, you know, delaying, floating, futuristic kind of stuff. So I hope that was fun. If you have any questions, you can write me an email, write it here in chat, write me on Twitch, write me on Twitter. You can find me everywhere. You've probably been seeing that stuff around for quite a while. And that's it. So I hope you had fun, and that this was cool for you to just explore, and hopefully you'll have, you know, a little more inspiration to get into this scene. So until next time, which is gonna be tomorrow, actually, I think, you know, maybe. Yes. All right. Have fun, guys. Spend a good weekend. And well, for those of you who are gonna be here for the next one, we'll see each other. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.